Welcome to Carrow Road. Obviously, we're back here for the first time after a couple of weeks after that, a big result against Ipswich Town, hoping for something similar today. I think West Brom are currently 2-0 down against Leicester, so there's a big opportunity for Norwich City to move up the Championship table up to 5th place. Adam Harvey, joined by Connor Southwell. We're a couple of moments away from team news. Small couple of updates to bring you. No Kennebo on the coach that arrived at Carrow Road a little while ago. Obviously, that would probably indicate someone like Sorensen and Fashnak will be involved. Connor, I suppose with all that, what sort of 11 are you expecting to drop in a minute or so's time?
Yeah, I'm probably expecting it to be unchanged, if I'm honest. That feels like probably the most natural sort of solution, I guess, from what we saw last week at Preston. The fact they've had a whole new week. There's no sort of fresh injury concern that we know of. It's obviously Jakob Sorensen back in training this week, and Christian Fashnak. We've seen Fashnak. He's been on the pitch as the players do before the team news gets announced, and like you say, some little bits in terms of Kennebo not being there. I'm not expecting Pedro Lima to be in the matchday squad either. And obviously with those bodies coming back, then it does provide Norwich City with some decisions to make around those young players. And look, you don't need us to say it. You can only look at what they've done in recent weeks around those guys and maybe their lack of involvement. And it probably makes it obvious, I would suggest, that those players who do return from injury, with obviously Grant Hanley hopefully coming back next week as well, that those players who are returning are going to come back in the matchday squad, and probably at the right time from Norwich City's perspective.
Yeah, of course, we expect John Rowe to be involved as well on the bench. First time he'd been in a matchday squad at Carrow Road since the win over West Brom in January. We do have the team news, so I'll read it out to you now. Norwich City side to take on Bristol City. Angus Gunn in goal. Jack Stacey, Duffy, Gibson and McCallum the back four. Nunez and McLean the midfield two. Zara, Sainz, Barnes behind Josh Sargent. That is an unchanged Norwich City 11 from the side that beat Preston North End last Saturday. The bench is as follows: Long, Bart, Montoya, Fisher, Sorensen, Fashnak, Welch, Rowe and Van Hooijdonk. So yeah, as pretty much as we mapped out there just a moment ago, just Lima and Abo dropping out and Fashnak and Sorensen coming in. Connor, you said you expected it to be unchanged. It is. What do you make of that?
Yeah, good, isn't it? I think we've done a lot of these videos over the season where we've had to talk about changes and we've had to talk about maybe issues that David Wagner has got in his squad and some of the decisions subsequently that's made. And it feels like probably for the first time this season, Norwich City look and feel quite settled in terms of the lineup, particularly in an attacking sense, but defensively as well. That's been so important. You think they kept a clean sheet against Preston. They kept a clean sheet last time they were here in that East Anglian derby. Sheffield Wednesday, obviously the only blip on the record in that regard, so to speak. So yeah, there's probably very few arguments that you could make in terms of David Wagner making changes and issuing changes after what we saw particularly last week, which was not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but a slightly different, dogged away performance that they've done. And obviously, I've written my column on this, and there's been lots of debate around this. You've got players like John Rowe, Fashnak. That bench is beginning to look significantly stronger as well because of players returning at the right time ahead of what we all hope is going to be a playoff campaign. So, it feels like Norwich are in a much better place, obviously with a few players to come back as well. So, yeah, I think it's very hard to extract any arguments for any of those players who are in the side to drop out of it based on what's happened in the last few weeks.
Yeah, of course, we're expecting Grant Hanley maybe to be involved as well next Saturday, so that bench is only getting stronger. I know you wrote a column on it this morning, Connor. John Rowe, how do we get him back in? I know, obviously, they are trying to build his fitness back up, but you mentioned there how settled that lineup's been. It feels like, particularly going into these kind of last 3 games of the season, he might be a vital player in the playoffs, if they Norwich reach that in terms of the semi-finals. How do they get him back in?
Yeah, I don't know, which I wrote in about 800 words for my column this morning. I don't know is the honest answer. It's a really, as I said, given everything that they've had to contend with in recent weeks and months of injuries and all season, really, the fact that this is now a conversation is a nice one to have, I'm sure, for David Wagner. But you're right, because Borja Sainz feels maybe like the obvious candidate, but I think we've seen over the last few weeks and months signs that he is adapting to English football and beginning now to show what he's about. Ashley Barnes, for me, offers a unique skill set, which I think if you take him out, Norwich, again, because if teams go and press them, you don't have him as a physical outball, so to speak, so it becomes quite difficult, I think, then to relieve pressure and play against presses. And don't underestimate the tactical understanding, the grit, all of that stuff that he has that adds to it. Gabriel Sara on the right, well, again, you keep him there, and Marcelino Nunez, who's, again, playing so consistently, playing so well as of late. then you have to drop him back to push Gabriel Sara back in, and then if you even go as far as to say, well, the argument is you push Kenny McLean into centre back, well, then you've got to take Ben Gibson out probably, and he's someone that's performed really well as well. So there's not really much area for him to get back into the side. He will. We know what he's like. He's confident. He's very self-confident, and that's been a massive asset this season. And I think he's proven that you don't bet against him. He produces moments, and sometimes that can be good off the bench in games which are defined on small margins. So maybe that super sub role is one for him. But yeah, as Julian says, you can't leave him out when he's fully fit. So they're going to have to find a solution to that conundrum. I mean, for me, a front four of Sainz, Sara in the 10, Rowe, Sargent, that is absolutely mouthwatering. But again, I do think it does underplay the qualities and the cohesion that Ashley Barnes brings to that front four. So yeah, it's really difficult, and I don't know the answer.
Yeah, before we bring the Bristol City side, obviously 2 home games now on the horizon. Feels like Norwich can almost smell the playoffs. Having an opportunity is today. Obviously, they're playing a good Bristol City side, which we'll read that squad out in just a moment. It's a side that's actually been in pretty good form in recent weeks. They're good defensively, maybe less so going forwards, but I think Norwich have, as I've kind of seen in recent weeks, 1-0 margins has been a common theme. It's just about that little bit of magic. Norwich have got that. Do you think that could maybe define this game?
Yeah, I think so. I think this is going to be tight because as much as people talk about teams being on the beach, to use that kind of cliched expression, and how sometimes that can, maybe if a game goes to a wire or there's an edge, it's maybe not quite there from the side who have little to play for. But often it can bring a freedom, and I think you see that in recent weeks with what it's done to Bristol City and their form. It's brought a freedom. It's allowed Liam Manning to maybe take the pressure off his players, to try some new things. They've just tweaked their style of play ever so slightly. They've become a team that's a bit more transitional, don't want the ball as much, and they've had real success with that, barring probably last week against Huddersfield, where I think they all feel frustrated that they got a 1-1 draw in that particular game. So yeah, it's I would say don't underestimate this game and don't feel that it's going to be an easy one just because of where Bristol City are and maybe the lack of anything from their perspective to play for, because they're in good form. They are, they're managed by a very good young coach who is going to be demanding a certain level and a certain standard of performance from him, because he's making assessments about next season. And don't forget, there's individual motivations for these players. There'll be some of them playing for new contracts, playing for moves, playing for futures, whatever, and playing to prove that they should be part of it next season. So I don't think anyone should underestimate this. But you're right, in games with low margins, Norwich have of late, since January really, they've had the quality to edge them, and I think that might be what it requires here today, I think.
Yeah, I'll read you that Bristol City side now. O'Leary, Tanner, McCrory, Dickey, Roberts, Sykes, Knight is the captain, Williams, Pring, Scott Twine, of course, a very talented player, as we know from sort of his time at MK Dons. Maybe it didn't work out at Burnley and Hull, but certainly thriving in this Bristol City side. And then Tommy Conway up front, who, I think has got double figures in all competitions in terms of goals this season. Definitely a young talent up front. Their bench is Bojic, King, James, Gardner-Hickman, Moudet, Mehmeti, of course, formerly of Norwich City's academy, Cornick, and Wells. Kind of a nice blend there of experience and youth there in that side, Connor. I mean, David Wagner kind of outlined it in his press conference the other day. He feels they're a side that maybe next season under Liam Manning could go and sort of, challenge, I suppose, in the top 6 mix. Certainly lots of talented players. We've seen them twice already this season against Norwich, both tight games. What sort of do you expect from them today at Carrow Road?
Yeah, I think they're going to be a team looking to soak up pressure and hit on the break, which is something they've done really well. I think they'll test Norwich probably more than perhaps some teams have done here in recent weeks. Famous last words, but yeah, you're right. I like the balance of it. I like the coach. I like the way that they try and play, and I like the way that he's kind of problem solved this season. Even though they've probably put a run together, probably just a little bit too late to kind of put themselves in the top 6 conversation. So yeah, I think Wagner's right. I think next season they're probably one that I am looking at as potential to maybe upset the top 6 because of the quality that they have, particularly given that they're possibly going to add to that. So yeah, this is, as I said, I don't think this is a game to be underestimated. I think it is. Certainly, you look at it, you look at their sides, you look at the form, you look at where they are in the table. It feels like this probably should be the toughest game that Norwich have left in the regular season. Of course, we know what the Championship's like, and it throws up unwanted surprises, and it doesn't often deal in the way that you expect. So yeah, I think you're right. I think this is going to be tight, and let's hope Norwich City can edge it.
Yeah, I suppose given a win today, do you think that would probably be enough to cement Norwich's place in the playoffs? I mean, 74 points. It would then require, I think, Hull to win all their games or Coventry to win all their games. Of course, they play each other, so one of those sides won't pick up maximum points, or ideally both if they draw during the week. do you feel like today might be potentially enough to secure top 6?
Yeah, I think it would put them all but there. You would then need, I think, those teams that you mentioned to be all but perfect. I think Coventry can get a maximum of 75 now, and that would require them winning all of their games. Hull 77, they're away at Watford. That's going to be difficult. That's even before the Coventry game in midweek. So, yeah, I think if they win here today, and obviously some results go their way, it could be all but done, if not quite, not mathematically on Tuesday night, if both of those teams draw. But, yeah, you win here today, and I think Norwich are as good as in, really. It would probably require a point, really, wouldn't it? That's probably where we're at in terms of that conversation. So, yeah, big day, and if Norwich City can get over the line, then I think they are all but there with 2 games to go.
Yeah, lots of positivity in the comments. I'll draw up a few score predictions in just a moment. There's a few questions that we'll come on to. No Paddy Davitt, no, of course.
Out for the season.
He is out for the season. No injury, of course, just, personal matters off the pitch, which are very positive, of course, the arrival of his... West Brom have scored. So it's 2-1 now to Leicester in that game. Spanish Canary. Will Sidney Van Hooijdonk get a game this season? Of course, we saw him have a couple of moments off the bench there against Preston in the latter stages. I mean, I suppose today, a home game, if Norwich are chasing the game, could you see him, being chucked on in this sort of an occasion?
I think now that Liam Gibbs is out for the remainder of the campaign, I think he'd have to be, wouldn't he? Particularly with no Kenneth on the bench as well, and that's an interesting one. Obviously, we'll ask David about that post game, but I think it'd have to be, just in terms of attacking options. I guess you've got Christian Fashnak, who they played sort of centrally against Sheffield Wednesday, didn't they, as an alternative option? But there's not a huge amount for Johnny Rowe. I guess you could deploy centrally. I think that would be a little bit of a gamble, but you could do that, I suppose. So yeah, that feels like it's the obvious one. But in terms of starting games, I mean, and this is where I do feel sorry for Wagner. It's how do you take Josh Sargent out? How do you take Ashley Barnes out on the form? It's difficult regardless of how good Van Hooijdonk is training and preparing himself and how good he's been around the group. So it's difficult for him, and it feels to me increasingly like he is somebody who needs to come on into a game and needs to impact it and needs to produce something whilst he's on it. And that is, we know that you look at the statistics around substitutions, you get limited windows to go and prove yourself. That's very difficult. So yeah, increasingly it feels quite difficult that he is going to have a major say in this season. I guess the key is, will Norwich need him in a moment that matters, and can he produce in a moment that matters? That's going to be the real question now, and obviously it's then up to Ben Napper and the people that make these decisions to judge whether he's done enough to earn a permanent move. For me, that probably feels and looks a little bit unlikely at the moment.
Yeah, read a few of these score predictions out. Elliot Pearson going for a 3-0 Norwich City win. Ali Clark on YouTube going for a 2-1 Norwich. Craig Matlas, he's going for 3-1 Norwich. The opportunity, of course, to go into 5th, as we've outlined. What else have we got down here? Tom Izzard also going for a 3-1 victory. 3-1 seems to be quite popular. Obviously, NCFC one going for a 3-1 Norwich City win as well. Carl on X going for 2-1. Tight game. Spanish Canary 2-0. Jim 1-0. I see another 3-1. That's very popular today. Connor, with all that, I suppose this is the game that I kind of spoke about in the press room. Often feels like it's defined by one goal, and we've had that this season as well. Of course, the Carrow Road Cup game was a 1-0 victory. 2-1 at Ashton Gate. Adam Eaders late winner. There's been plenty of other times that's been the case this season. Of course, Bristol City, 4th best defensive side in the division, maybe struggle a little bit more for goals, but I think given Norwich's recent results, 1-0 against Preston, 1-0 against Ipswich, 1-0 against Sunderland, 2-1 against Plymouth, often very tight and defined by a goal. With all that kind of, what sort of score prediction are you feeling today?
I'm going to have it defined by a goal. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Norwich win. I think Norwich will have enough in the moments that matter to win this game. But I do think, like I say, it's going to be tight. It's going to be difficult. I think it might be frustrating at points. And I guess that lends to what David Wagner was saying about the importance of the crowd in here this afternoon as well, and needing to maybe, and it's going to be difficult to reach those sort of levels that we heard against Ipswich, but definitely in and around that kind of level is where things need to be. So yeah, I think patience might be the order of the day in this one. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Norwich. What about you, Adam?
Yeah, I think I went 1-0 yesterday on the preview show, so I'm going to stick with that. Yeah, I think another tight and cagey game at Carrow Road, but of course 3 points is all that was on for Norwich City require really to probably almost cement their place in the top 6. So that would be huge for them. Rob coming in late with a 2-1 Norwich City victory there. Of course, we'll see what we get. All the live coverage will be available on the Pinken app, of course, or on our website. Of course, you can get the live blog with Sam this afternoon. We've got the app you can take out a subscription with us, $2.99 a month, free trial as well, which is well worth looking into. We've also got
near the playoffs, Adam.
There we go. Of course, all to on the horizon. Potential playoff fixture. I've seen a few comments. Maybe some want Ipswich, maybe some don't in the comment section. And we've had this debate, and we'll leave that for a few more weeks. Of course, we've got a competition running as well. If you're a big fan of Football Manager, Connor is a big fan of Football Manager. I know you've seen the new feature. Just want to outline what it is, Connor?
Yeah, we're on the game, aren't we? We're in the press conferences. You can, if you are managing Norwich, I don't know how far it stretches, but I'd imagine it's probably limited to Norwich. You can get questions from the Pink 'Un, not us, sadly, in terms of me, but it'll be someone representing the Pink 'Un, which is pretty cool, I think. So yeah, to celebrate that, you can win yourself a copy.
Yeah, there is a post on our social channels, or the question is, what card colour does a player get or receive when they get sent off in a game? If you know the answer to that, which is obviously a very difficult question, the competition is there, so you need to email ec.competitions@localiq.co.uk.
It's the 26th, I believe. It's the closing date for that, so you've got this week.
Yep, there we go. And the subject line is Pink 'Un Football Manager. It is now on our X and on our Facebook, so you can just head over there if you haven't caught that email there. Of course, also worth mentioning, fan of the season, well-renowned Westie, who, of course, were featured on our channels prior to the Millwall game. £60,000 raised for Macmillan Cancer. He's deserving of that award. And
he needs to take us to Gran Canaria, doesn't he? That's where he's off to, so we get an invite for that.
Yeah, really good video on the club's channels last night. They deserve a lot of credit, those involved. Of course, Johnny Rowe, Kenny McLean and David Wagner and the media team at Norwich City. So with that, we're going to sign off. Hopefully we get a good afternoon of football. I'm feeling a tight game. I think Connor's feeling a tight game, but we obviously are very often wrong on these things. So maybe it'll be a high goal scoring affair. But as long as Norwich City get 3 points, that's all that matters. Thanks for joining.